Hi, my name is Tatiana Shimon. I'm in your Intro to Fiction online class, and I decided to talk about Into the Storm. I have notes because my memory is really bad, so I'll just be looking down at the notes. So I decided to talk about Into the Storm because I think out of the 4 stories that we read, it was my favorite. Maybe because it was the shortest, because the other ones were quite long. But Into the Storm was a short story written by Kate Chopin. If I say any of these people's names wrong, I'm sorry. They're mostly French. Very difficult. So this story was written in 1898, and in our books, it makes it seem like that's when it's published, but according to the notes that were provided to us on Blackboard, it actually wasn't found and published until 1930s because it was not published until after Chopin died. So the story is very obviously about sex, and the theme of this week was about women, but mostly about affairs, but usually from the woman. So it's not specifically stated in the story that it's about sex because in the 1800s, women were not allowed to talk about sex, especially not that openly, and women writers weren't really taken seriously anyway, so nobody would have ever published this story. So I think sex is shown in a lot of different ways without openly saying, here they are, they had sex. So the story starts with Bibby, and I'm going to say Bobinette. Bibby is the son, and Bobinette is the father. They're stuck at a store because of the storm that was rolling in. So this is important because the wife, Calatex, was alone at home sewing. And at the beginning of the story, the storm hasn't reached them. And she's at home alone sewing, and all of a sudden she notices a storm coming, so she runs outside to get all of the laundry that was drying. And then when she's doing that, Elise rolls in on a horse, or I guess rides in on a horse, and it's kind of like a long-lost lover reconnect. And she invites him in, and right when he enters is when the storm really starts to hit. So to me, he represents the storm and their sexual tension, and their affair really represents the lightning and the thundering and all of that comes with storms. And so whenever he comes in, it's really obvious that they have crazy chemistry because she even states in the story that they have never once been alone in the 5 years that both of them have been married. So that shows that they obviously cannot control themselves if they're together alone. So after he enters, it's really obvious that there's a lot of tension sexually with them. And I think the kicker for them to start their affair is when the lightning strikes the tree. And that's kind of like the match that lights their flame, in a corny way to say. So after the lightning hits the tree, they start to reminisce about when they were alone at the Assumption, which it was before they were married, and Calixta, or the wife, she just mentions how they kissed and they kissed and they kissed, and it just made her feel young and alive. And I think reminiscing about that together so close with a storm, it really brought them this desire to want to be together again for one more time, hopefully just once. And so after the affair, the rain stops, and that's exactly when he leaves, is right when the rain stops. So it's like the storm just kind of shows that it was just their affair, like that was the symbol for their quick love. But then after the storm ends, it's all sunny, and her husband and her son come home, and before they come home, they make sure like they're clean and they're well presented so that they don't upset the wife. So whenever they enter, Calixta greets them, and she's so excited, and she acts like nothing happened. Like, she did not just cheat on her husband. Like, she was just been waiting at home, being the dutiful wife who was sewing the whole time. So she has all this wonderful dinner prepared, and then her husband, being the kind man he is, he bought her favorite can of shrimp, which kind of, in my thoughts, show like his love for her, because while there's a storm and he knows that she's worried about them, he decides to buy her a can of shrimp, but while she's alone, she decides to cheat on him. So that just kind of shows where their intentions lie. Can you raise the camera higher? Thank you.
Sorry.
So when Alice gets home, he writes to his wife basically saying, I love you and I miss you, but you can stay a month longer. And when his wife reads this letter, she's basically ecstatic with joy. She's like, oh, I love my husband, I'm so faithful, but I love the freedom that I have before we were married, because she feels very restrained, and like she just has to be this dutiful, faithful wife who really cannot do anything. So when she's away, she just feels more like she did when she was single while still being faithful. So it's kind of the best of both worlds for her and him, because while she's gone, I guess he just gets to cheat on her with whoever he feels. So, in a nutshell, I feel this short story is a good description of human nature. And I think Chopin really tries to show the desire and lust is as natural as any storm. And even though it's dark and it's sinful, it's still something that does occur naturally, because lust is, if you're religious, is a sin. You're not supposed to have an affair, and it's dark and it's mysterious, just like any storm is. Any storm that rolls in, you never know what's going to occur. Will it bring a tornado? Will it just be rain? Will it be lightning or thunder? So I feel Chopin really does do a great job of just showing that this is something that occurs naturally. It happens to whoever lets their lust and their sin overcome them, just like the storm overcomes anything. So, thank you.